Hello and welcome to Dell's Gaming. I'm Dell and this is Kerbal Space Program, where our Kerbal nauts are enjoying a little morning breakfast after their successful launch of a reverse equatorial satellite on the second attempt, working out which way it's supposed to go. They've managed to get this, have a good morning lunch before they start on their next adventure. Now, on the last episode, I talked about getting more science, because there's a couple of bits we want to get to be able to fulfill more of the tourist type missions. Now, one of these things is this hitchhiker container, because that allows us to take 4 people at once in a ship. So just as basically passengers, which will, as you can imagine, be of great benefit. There is a docking station which we're going to need at some point as well. That allows us to dock multiple vehicles together, multiple spaceships, which is going to be of great use as well. The other one is just better rocketry, some solid boosters, as well as more efficient jets, engines whilst in space. This particular one has a 350 ISP, which is great in space, and the next one has a better takeoff and better usage, better thrust, 568 thrust at only 280 ASL, so that's great. This one doesn't have very good thrust, but it has a good fuel efficiency, so this is good as a takeoff engine, and this is a much better in space engine. What else have we got? There is a few other small ones as well, which would be useful to have, but it's not as relevant. Better fuel tanks obviously is always going to be more useful, and external fuel ducts. The construction here, the radial decouplers would be handy. I mean, there's a lot of things which are going to be handy, and a few things which are, we don't really need. Now, to get that science, the easiest way is there's a lot still in Kerbin to go and explore. If we go here into our tracking center, we can see there's all of these different biomes which I talked about last time, including the poles, and there's some other little points to go and see, plus there's contracts to take samples at various places. Now, on the Wikipedia, if you go into something like the wiki, you will find there is lists out there of all the special places to go. There's a little crater somewhere, and I'm not 100% certain where that is, but it is on here somewhere. There's a crater, there's a little island not far from where we take off down here. This little island's down here. You can land on one of those, and that's more data. From where we are, I have already done a quick little mission to the mountains to get some just as a test flight, to get some science. So I built a little. So basically, what I have done, first of all, I have upgraded the runway, because that bumpy old thing is just no good for taking off aircraft. And then I built a little simple space plane. So let's go and have a look at the space plane part and building them. Now, it's a fairly good, it's got a slightly long, it's a double wing, slightly longer, just to give a bit more lift. But the basics of it: cockpit, some gear. Now, you have to be a bit careful with these gear. These gear cannot take much, what's the best way of putting it? Much speed. Put too much speed in these things and they will blow up, and I do get this problem on the runway during takeoff on occasion, which is annoying. But basically what we have here, we've got a couple of 400 fuel tanks here, and we'll go through those 400 fuel tanks. That gets us around most of the planet. The 2 science juniors, 2 mystery goo, and 2 thermometers. Why 2 I'll go through in a minute. We've got a load of parachutes, because I do like to, as a backup, is land it just using, I can always just launch the parachutes instead of having to actually land. Some of the biomes we're going to, like the mountains, there was no flat spot to land, so it was easier just to drop the parachutes, deploy parachutes and land using parachute level. We've got a little structure at the back just to elongate the back. We'll go through why that is important. An intake for a general thruster. Common mistake at the beginning, not putting an intake on. Done it myself. I did it with a jet car earlier, but when I started I didn't put an air intake in, so the engine didn't work. It just went fut at the very beginning. Very annoying. Now I've done a little delta system at the back, but you could have a tailplane and two separate ones. Couple of common mistakes people make on your control surfaces, which is the tail fin. Make sure it's only active for what you need it to do. Now in this case it is yaw and pitch. If I had a separate tail, I would only want it, say, for yaw, and the side ones only for pitch. And the ailerons here, which you can just see, are only there for roll. And just makes it a little bit more controllable. But the most important thing, rather than throwing things together, is centre of mass and centre of lift, which you set on the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side. This is about the most important part of the whole plane to make it controllable. Now this is defined by your wings. You can see as I move the wings around, my centre of mass and centre of lift and is moved around. Now why is that important? Right, okay, then we'll start at the front. If you have your centre of lift in front of your centre of mass, it will basically become uncontrollable. It will flipper in the air and you'll wonder what's happening, and it's like an acrobat, and it will just be totally uncontrollable. So the further, have it in the center, about level, and it's just about controllable. So you need it behind the center of mass. But so you think, oh well, we'll put it back here. Have it too far back and you'll get no control input, and you'll simply won't be able to control it to be able to even take off. So you need it behind, but not too far behind the center of mass. Now the other important bit that people forget about is there's two states for this plane. And what is that meaning? Well, your center of mass will change depending on how much fuel you have. So make sure that you empty your fuel and then see. So you can see that is almost on my center of mass. So when I was gliding in, that would be almost uncontrollable. So empty all your fuel out and then sort out your center of mass on there. Okay, so that's a nice good position. That's going to be quite controllable. Once I'm empty of fuel, I'm going to have quite a good bit of control there. The other bit with your fuel, now we just put all the fuel back again, and you can see my center of mass is moving forward, especially when I fill up this one at the front. Okay, now the other thing you'll notice is I haven't put oxidizer in. There's no need to have oxidizer. This engine only uses liquid fuel. There is no need for oxidizer. It is just adding weight, so make sure you remove your oxidizer from your engines. There is no point in having them there, quite simply. So that's the space plane, the science space plane. So basically, yes, we've got, I think I said I've got 2 science juniors and 2 pods. Why 2? Okay, that is so that when I go over a biome, I can do 2 sets of readings. Once while flying low and once whilst landed, after I've either deployed the parachutes or landed. And the same with the goo and the other side. Now, okay, it is possible to get my Kerbinaut out and run along the back and reset everything if it was a scientist, reset everything and then start again. 2 problems I've found with that, personally. One is some of the biomes I land in, like the mountains, were so unstable you couldn't, your Kerbinot's just going to fall off, so it wouldn't get back in time to reset the areas. Also, if they did fall off, you've got to do a whole load of parkour on this leg to try and get back up, to get in here to, no, just wasn't working. It's not worth it. It's worth just doing multiple trips in the plane, and when you find a new biome, do 2 sets of readings. One when you're flying low, one when flying high. So anyway, I've got this aircraft, we've changed it a little bit, but let's just see what it's like when we launch it. Who have we got? Have we got Valentina in here? Valentina. Yeah, we're going to take Valentina for a quick little spin, just to see what this is like. So we should be loading up on the runway. Right, first thing, we'll put the brakes on, just to stop us moving. The other next thing is press the V button to get yourself in locked view. Now that means that you can set yourself in like behind it, and no matter where the plane, you'll just always be level with the plane. It's a lot easier to work out where everything is and where you're supposed to be going. I would, if you've got a pilot on board, put your stabilization on. It will help just to keep it a little bit more controllable, although this particular plane of mine is relatively stable. Make sure your stabing's right. There's nothing worse than those parachutes launching just as you go for the engine. The other bit I do for takeoff is I reduce my control inputs by pressing the caps lock key. You see that it's turned blue? Without that, if I just press the keyboard, you can see how quickly that pitch changes. If I put caps lock on, you'll see it changes a lot slower. One of the reasons is at the takeoff, you don't want to go up too quickly. With the size of these wings, you'll have quite a lot of input into the vehicle, and it will quite happily flip if you give too much input. Right, taking off. Important parts of takeoff is to know what is your V1. Now your V1 is the point at which you can start using pitch. Give it an upward tap to try and make it take off. Too fast, as I said, these landing gear will blow up. Too slow, and it won't have any effect. Now, so you've got to find out what is your V1. That V1 is effectively your stall speed. So you want to hit about just after the stall speed, so that you're basically taking off and your engines are pushing you up into the air. Now, I just want to check that I did actually, yes, I did fuel this up. So let's go for a takeoff, and the V1 on this is about 18 meters a second, and with my reduced pitch I shouldn't go up too fast. The other problem with going up too fast is if people say, oh, just point your nose in the air. This engine is at the back. If you go up too fast, it will scrape on the ground and basically blow up, which is not good for the rest of your flight if you have no engines. So just do it slowly, get to the right amount, and then just give it a little tap up. So let's see how this goes. We're doing it. Engines on, brakes off. Right, we're getting speed up. We're keeping an eye on the speed at this first point. Just keep it pointing down the runway. Getting to about a 70 or 80 point. Come on, get up. There we go. It's not quite giving me. There we go. It's actually near 100. I think it's the extra fuel. I think earlier when I did it on 80, it was slightly less fuel. Okay, we've got a good nose up attitude, which is quite good. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to head towards one of the little biome areas, which I know there is a little extra work. Now I'm only using yaw here. You could use, this is the point with the lock. You can see my environment moves, but I stay where I am. Now there is a little landing strip over here which we can try and land in. Now I'm going to cut my throttle down because we don't need to be going quite so fast. And now with the engineer, you can see, mech engineer, you can see the biome in the right hand side. Let's just go over here. In the right hand side you can see we're over water flying low. So that's where we are at the moment, which I'm pretty sure we have details for all of that, so that we'll just double check. just do that. Yeah, we've got nothing in there, so we won't worry about that one. Now over here, I know in this island, let's see if we can do an overflight of the island. And we'll see if we can get some extra data from flying over it and also landing. There is like an emergency landing strip over here, I believe. You can see we've got it's fairly stable, this plane. Yeah, it's got a slight little up there. If I just tap it down a little bit, it will hold itself at quite a nice level altitude, depending on the speed we're going. You know, so it's quite nice and stable. So okay, the actual runway is this way. I need to just go over this way just a little bit more, cut the throttle a little bit further, and we're going to come around. We're not really giving myself enough leading, coming in by landing. I'm cutting the landing a little short on this, but first of all I'm going for an overfly anyway. Before we try and land here, let's get keep on forgetting the controls on this are a little weird compared to most flight sims I would play. So there's a rough landing. So we got flying over shores. So have we got anything here we could use? Science Bay? No. And over tundra and grasslands? No, there was tundra there, which is one area I hadn't done. Now we're going to try and do a landing here, and then we'll see if we can get some data on that runway. So let's just see if I can land this puppy after having built it. Now I'm going to give myself plenty of distance here. There's no point in being too quick with your landing. It does. Luckily we've got no wind, so I haven't got to worry about making sure I'm downwind or upwind. If we just roll it up and over, and bring it round again, give myself a little height, coming in a little low. Speed is a little low, then give it a bit more speed. We're going to mainly use yaw here in our rudders. I'll take the, oops, there we go, let's put that back on again. Double vertical tail does make it a little bit more challenging. I need to get my speed down quite a lot. So we've got two ways of landing here. I'm going to go for actually a proper landing, but I have always got the backup of there. Right, we're cutting the fuel that down. Going to give it a flare, 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 flare. That's not too bad. Brakes, 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 brakes. No, deploying parachutes because the brakes did not work there. Okay, we lost the engine there. The brakes are crap on this. That did not work. Oh well, we did actually land. Let's see what we've got. See if we can get anything. I think we're too far down away now. Oh well, yep, some science and some goo. That's more science. And there, log temperature. More science, and also we can do a crew report here. Crew report, more science, and we can also tell her to do an EVA and get a crew report. Look, crew report. No, not allowing me because we've already done it from the EVA. Okay, so we've already done that. So now what we could do is just recover. So not really a successful landing there because the brakes were going to be sending me all the way out over there, which is not great. This is not a long runway, and my flare landing was a little low. I think my speed was a little high on that landing, but as you saw, I can use those parachutes anyway, so not a problem. So let's just do a recovery and see what we got. So we got a nice little 14.4 of science earned there. Most of our parts back. We did lose that engine on the rear, which was a little disappointing. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to go to various biomes and get some data using this. We're going to get Valentina to go do a few trips out. I'm going to bring up a list of all the different biomes we can go to. Now if you want to know where you have been and haven't been, if you go to R&D, let's get into the right place, enter here, and we are at some limit, which is so I am doing a bio. We've got a limit of 100, which means that I don't think we can even get these ones, but I'm going to get some of these areas possibly. We'll see, maybe. See this pressure barometer, I'm just wondering, maybe if I get that, that's even more data we can get when we are going through our tests. That's even more science. The more items we have, the more science we can have. So okay, I might get this now and add that barometer to our vessels and do a little bit more science whilst we were about it. As I said, more science the better. So that's got us down. So I was saying in here, if you go to the science archives, you can look at everywhere we've been. So if we look at surface landed, or say surface flying low, that's always a good one. Over and we want, let's see, crew reports. So we've only done grasslands and shores while flying low. And also mystery goo is only been there's only one level for that by the looks of it. It's flying low. Mobile materials is flying materials. It doesn't look like that's a biome specific. You can see there's no biomes down here, but this one, temperature, does seem to be biome specific, so we can get temperatures, and I don't know if I logged my temperature at the various areas. It's not showing mountains. I thought I did mountains, but for some reason the mountains is not there. We've done the EVA while flying over mountains. You can see that was the crew report, but not the one of the others, which is a little strange, but hey ho. Right, we'll go Kerbin just to make sure we've got all of those bits. So also you can see down here the various areas. So we've got mountain reports. We can do it this way. Go to the mountains. We've had a Kerbin, we've had a crew report, an EVA report, a material study, mystery goo, and temperature scan over the mountains, which is good. Over the shores, we've had even more. So we can see highlands. We're missing some for the highlands. By the looks of it, we've had a material, mystery, temperature while flying, but we haven't done crew reports whilst doing over the highlands. So now I can go through and see which ones need doing and get them done, basically, one after the other. All of the different areas we can get, basically, and that's landed. Now what we could also say is Kerbin flying low, which ones have, see, temperature scan and a crew report whilst flying over an area. So each of these we could get 3 sets of data on each of these. So yeah, it's now a matter of going through them and just working out what you can and can't do on each area. And I'm going to do that offline now. So let's go back here and get that data. And so for next episode, this is a shorter episode, so next episode we should have a whole load more data. I'm not going to show you all of the flights because that would be silly, I think. I've got lots to do, lots to work out, but it's not going to be very interesting. I will just see if there is a available flight locally. Now these are all these all seem to be local ones. Okay, we have got some here which we could take for ready for when we go into our sorry, when I say they're local ones, these are all space ones. So there's a itinerary there, very VIP, temperature scans, that is of the Mun space, a couple of position satellite in polar orbit, there's a couple of those, science from space around Kerbin, that could be an interesting one to go for. We've already done that, but if they're going to give us more points, we might as well go for it and explore the Mun. So there's nothing which is going to look at somewhere on the planet. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this, which ones are, we won't worry about that one, won't worry about that one, we'll take this one here because otherwise it's going to expire and we won't get it in time, so that's fine. Yep, so that's those. No amazing other ones. I think we'll go for some unmanned flight in our next episode. But yeah, I will now go and do this all offline, and next episode I'll show you the results, and hopefully we've got lots of science. But until next time, keep flying and have fun.